we are very proud now to have a talk with Nada Hasan.
Thank you. Yes.
And at 7 o'clock, due to delayed flight, there will be another artist running in here. And we have worked. It's been a big work with this festival, so we are a little bit tired. We have not prepared very well. We have had 2 weeks, so I hope this will be a conversation with all of you, so you can all pop into this discussion. And if you have any question, you can tell. And I think we're all very curious. We are curious of Nada, Elisabeth Belliveau that will come, and perhaps you are curious in us, in what we are doing, the artistic work in different countries. So I hope there will be a nice talk. Okay? Yeah. Yeah.
Will we see any work of the artist?
Yes. After this talk, there will first be the Elisabeth Belliveau's film, Trussian, and then Nada Hasan's room
At Region X.
At Region X, yes. I always mix if it's at or off.
Room at every region.
Yes.
Yes.
So, and I'm so happy you're here. And I saw yesterday that you made a crowdfunding.
Yes, to come here to Sweden, because Stockholm is a very big, it's very expensive city for me. So, okay.
And it was really fun watching it.
Yes.
Nada Hasan come to Sweden.
Fight capitalism,
fight the capitalism. It's an expensive country. You can see it on Vimeo, on her website, do it.
Yes.
So it's very inspiring.
Yeah,
So,
for me it was like really important to participate in this screening, because I never been in a screening of my work before. Yeah, let's start. Maybe I can give.
Yeah, you can give
then
a background, thing by
some context.
Yeah,
Actually,
context.
I was like asking myself like what topic we'll talk about. Will I talk about my practices of art and visual art in my context as an artist living in Egypt, or in this context, in the European context, and compare it like with everything, or talk about the film and my experience with the film. So when you will watch it, you will get some sense of what was going in my head. So let's start like this and go through everything. So let me introduce myself first. My name is Nada Hasan. I am like almost 30 years old, and I started my career in visual art and video making and film making like 2010. Studied at the Jesuit Film School in Cairo. It's like an independent film school that program for 1.5 years or something for independent filmmakers and like people who do work with moving image in general. Then I have another part of my life, like I work with I was working as an employee in a feminist organization, and mainly in 2011 was the beginning of Arab Spring and Egyptian uprising. I was really concerned about the movement of mainly feminist movement and LGBT communities and queer communities in Egypt, of course in a very discreet and underground like work. Then I have this my original career as an artist and what to do. I got confused at first, and then I stopped making films for some years and was too into revolution and stuff like this. Then in 2016, I create some like short and documentaries and short fiction films. Most of my work really concerned about body image and sexuality, and most of them are somehow like personal experiences that I reflect on on the screen. I work with graphics, motion graphics, and graphic design, and that's my work now that I do for living, graphic design and animation, stuff like this. But I was trying to work on my first feature documentary film in Sudan and Egypt, South Sudan, but I stopped for many reasons, funding and stuff like this. And then I felt that I'm more concerned to experiment with moving image, with animation, with video art more. And I felt myself like my art practices fill in this gap between classical filmmaking and video art, and like free visual experience and free visual
animation. You work with animation as well?
Yes, I work with animation, the motion graphics as well. In 2016, I started this project with the Human Rights Hub in the University of York in London. They was an open call for international artists, like working with many disciplines, like working with textiles, working with drawings, illustrations, and filmmaking and music as well. And they provide us like huge archival material of testimonies and texts that collected from either ex-human rights defenders, mainly human rights defenders, and persons who have been survivors from prison and enforced disappearance. First, I didn't know that they have these testimonies like were collected from mainly 5 countries, like Egypt, Mexico, Colombia, and Kenya, and I think some 2 other countries. And there, we have all free hand to get inspired from these texts and create something, an artistic piece as a result of an inspiration of these testimonies or interviews. And then I had like 2 months working on this material, and personally I got very hooked by the theme of enforced disappearance, mainly because of my very short personal bad experience in 2012. I've been through this experience myself, and was in custody for 4 days because I was working as a video journalist in clashes and filming clashes during Mohammed Mahmoud incidents. It was really violent between Egyptians, revolutionists, and police. And then I had after this bad experience was really a bit horrible, and then I kept staying at my home and my room for almost 2 years, not talking to people. I was very introvert, and and then suddenly I got all this experience. When I read these testimonies, I felt that there's something in me, there's something very personal in this experience, and I wanted to express more about the concept of space and the concept of being in prison while you are not physically in prison, being living the everyday experience in Egypt after the defeat of revolution and after we've failed to do it. Was about constant feel of you live under constant censorship of something. You are like the walking streets while in my home, in my whatever. You know everything. They, who are they? They are something we don't know, but they have the power to know everything about us, to know, to being threatened while we live our everyday lives, that we can, any policeman can come knock my door and ask me what you do, come with me to whatever. And in this 2015, 2016, there were many incidents of enforced disappearance, exactly. Some persons I know personally. And then I was very angry. And I felt there's something wrong in this. And while I was like just spending my time mostly in my room, not even my house, only on my room, like drawing, like editing some videos, working from home. And then room at Region X came to
the film is you have the sense of isolation and claustrophobic.
Yes.
But there's also the voices is like very light and like telling you.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's effective.
Yes. I will leave something for you while watching the film. How I was wondering how I going to express about this very complicated and very personal experience, because it definitely wasn't easy for me. And me and my partner in work, like who did work on the soundtrack with very minimum budget and resources. He stayed with me in this room, and we will recreate this experience of being isolated in 4 walls, without seeing anybody, without knowing where we are, we will try to reinterpret and recreate it and live it as because it was kind of living experience while we are technically free, but we are not free. Whatever, yani, and
I can think it's got that feeling like claustrophobic when you're in that society that controls you. Like
and then this is a political concept or whatever the theme or so there's. I was wondering after this how I'm gonna express it artistically with the means and mediums I love to, or I. In these days, I was very because I was suffering from anxiety and stuff like this, and then I was very concerned about the colors, the sounds, and while we put ourselves in this experience for some long days, we tried to like build this concept and write this script of. Or kind of a monologue or something of some person is not maybe a woman, maybe a man, maybe whatever, talking to her or himself or theyselves, whatever. And then we started to recreate and study the what voices and what sounds we may hear and listen while we are in this full total isolation. The concept of isolation and the concept of space, our body as a space, our body as in this
as a room itself,
as a room itself. And
yes, that's what
this how this word room came as at Region X, the word of Region X in the testimonies I was working on. Most of the survivors they were anonymous. They were interviewing in this research. They keep like telling the researchers that we were locked and they put us in a region X that we don't know, because they don't know where they being locked or And then that's it. We are mentally and physically and emotionally locked in.
Yes, there is also
Yeah.
the woman running all the time, like
Yes.
So it's like you run like
Yeah.
you say in a wheel, or
Yeah, in a
like
wheel or in
that's an animal.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then there is another layer of this struggle with whatever revolution, with whatever sort of struggle, that the thing people sometimes put put on you this role of being a hero. And simply sometimes we don't need to be heroes. We don't want to be heroes. I didn't want to be a hero after being. It's a trauma. It's not. It's
No.
bad. It's being in prison. It's a bad thing. It's not
Okay,
something.
yeah.
It's not something you can be happy with it. Nobody should be in this place ever.
No need for hero.
Yeah, because I was working in this human rights organization, and I feel this trend of anyone goes through this experience, then he is a hero. He has to do this. He has to perform in certain way in his daily or her daily life. And sometimes I have many friends, they just don't want this role to be like forced on them or something. We just want to live like as human beings.
Yes.
Yeah. That's it. Okay. And I was trying to play with certain colors and certain sounds, and yeah, that's it.
Yes. Yeah. So you said also the voice is kind of sarcastic, or like
sarcastic.
yes,
There is
it's like standing back and
yeah, like
yeah. So
because
like,
yeah. Because I wrote the script, and I
it's very good because it's like a contradiction
Yes,
between
yes.
the very heavy
yeah,
materials
the
and-
voices, the monologues may sound a bit provocative sometimes,
Okay.
or sarcastic of the situation, but this is me. When I'm angry about something, I just make this space between me and the things that I'm really angry about it,
Yeah.
and then begin to being sarcastic, very sarcastic about it, and just
Like a distance.
the distant.
That's a distance.
Yeah, because otherwise I will be very like crazy. I will collapse. But,
Yeah.
yes, this is very me. Like it's
Yeah.
very personal, and this is most of my work. Maybe something, but yeah, it's personal work. I do
Yes.
it for, maybe first for myself and for other people
Or you
too.
are angry when you do things. So
Yes.
An angry woman.
yeah. So
That's good.
yes. And yes, this okay. We are heroes. We are happy. We are, but we are not happy.
No. Okay. Yes.
You put this in this situation to claim that we are happy and we are heroes and we are fighters, but simply we need to collapse.
Yeah.
Because sometimes collapsing is in a way it's healthy sometimes, and it's a very human thing. And I just spent many like some years to realize that I don't want to be a hero
No.
anymore. I just want
It's a lot of things that perhaps also they say that you have to be martyr or
yes and
like things that are really bad, and then you want to be here, or you have to be some symbol for something.
yes
Understand. No, I understand really.
yes and technically, of course, I worked with some like mentors from the visual art scene in Egypt, and
Yeah, tell us a little bit. We talked about it yesterday. You're in a group of artists.
yes, like the practices of visual and video art and moving image art in Egypt. It's not new. Like we have like many artists from since 2002, and when I was very young, but the thing, as I think it's in many regions, it's this kind of visual production, visual practice is not so popular in our context. Like okay, we know filmmaking, we go, we'll watch film in cinema or whatever, documentary or fiction, short fictions, but art movies and art film is not that popular. And of course we
because I think about your film is it has a serious matter or it's serious. It's a heavy material, but it's also very poetic in a way that you the rooms and everything. So it's.
Yeah, I was like visually
Perhaps
trying
also
to.
that's the distance between.
Yeah, visually and with
Beautiful.
editing and how I gonna create this visual narrative. While this experience of recreating the concept of space, of very limited space that we are looping and moving,
Yes.
and then I played on the concept of looping. Like we loop in the same area and we go back to the same point. We run, struggle, and we go back to the same point. Like, and maybe it's this where it comes a poetic thing. And in writing, I used to write to myself. I used to like, because I spent a lot of time with only myself without any people. And how it goes. Yeah, and how I didn't even think about it. The text came like this, and it's very simple. And for the text, because I have this stop in my process of it is in Egyptian local slang in Ammiya, and it's not Arabic Fusha Arabic. It's not in proper Arabic. It's local language, and it's not English, because many Egyptian artists and artists that Arab speaking or from MENA region and North Africa, and just create their work sometimes in either in Arabic Fusha and translate it in English, or from the beginning in English language. And this is mainly because from my point of view, and with talking with other fellow artists, it's because the artistic scene of contemporary practice, art practice, is honestly it's a bit Eurocentric. And one of my friends, he is a well-known curator in Egypt and in the Middle East, the North Africa region. He told me that if you create your work and produce it in English or in Arabic, it will easily go through, because its language is how you bridge yourself to the international audience. And for me, I try to break this, because when I am with myself, when I'm in my very own experience, I don't think in English. I'm not very high class, well educated person in Egypt. I think in Egyptian local language.
Yes.
I'm angry in my Egyptian local language. And this simply, I believe it affects our work and affects this fact of its language thing. And
How is the possibility to work as an artist? Like, do you have you say with experimental film?
How?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, there are two aspects of I was talking with my friends here about this. First, I produced this film with a very, very limited budget. I spent 5,000 pounds HP on this film, which is very few. And mainly I I transfer my house in a location. Because I used chroma and green screen. I get some green papers and put it on the wall, and then I shoot, and I did it all in my house, mainly. And I recorded everything in my room, and I created my own studio. And I was very, very discreet about this. That I'm working on testimonies about prison, and because it's very dangerous issue, So I try to make this space that no one seeing me. I am invisible. No police seeing me. Okay, because
And a woman artist.
the woman.
A woman.
Lena, sista frågan tog den
Okej. Är det någon, har du någon fråga?
I was just wondering, the birds.
Yes.
How much do you think about the birds?
The what?
The birds. It's very like the birds is so. When you see the film, it strikes you how poetic and it sounds. It's like very well put.
I wrote it at the night, maybe before I sleep, and I was, and I didn't think about this. Then it came like this. Yeah. This is how I was trying to. It's not poems, but it's also from these testimonies. There's some like prose or spoken word, but I created my text all of this, but I like to write somehow spoken word.
Yeah. So we have a question here.
Yeah. How long has the film been out now, and how has it affected you since, concerning your safety and reactions from the government, perhaps?
Yes. Okay. I started in. It take like 5 months to finish it. From like I take 2 months in studying the material, and 1 month and a half in writing, and then I filmed with the dancer, and there are only 3 characters. And one of the male character is also the sound producer. And for my safety, I used to take care about my safety, because I was working as an activist, and I was. All my work was only in my house, creating rehearsals were in my house with very, very few people in my crew, to not get so and the real struggle that how to rewrite this experience in this poetic text, because it was really hard, because the archival material was really
perhaps the poetic is not the right word. Very
yes, to absorb this experience, and the most difficult part to put my personal experience within this text, and because I have to make this distance between me and the. And I was wondering many times. I was feel that I failed many times. Do I victimize myself? Do I am being so dramatic about the situation and my? But then it goes like this. I have some problems with the sound recording, because I did it all in my house, but. Somehow I am, as my first production of a video from this genre of purely experimental and playing with graphics, I'm kind of satisfied with the experience.
Yes.
So
you worked a little bit around security and risk in work.
Yes.
it even been up here in Sweden. We're not that dangerous society, but it's like artist that makes and kind of art that provoke can be in danger. Women artists. So, but you worked in. But that was not only for the artists, like the risk and security.
Yes, actually, yeah, in our context, unfortunately, in these years, like, whatever you work, you are in a security dangerous kind of like. That's the thing, like, the censorship is a very big thing. Yeah. Like, okay, I write an article, okay, if they find that it's a bit political and it's and everything is politics. Like talking in food, with food about food is politics. But yeah, I was trying to be safe because, and at the same time to produce this work. Till now I didn't like screen it in Egypt. Though I have some friends and in contemporary art centers in Egypt, they want to screen it, but yeah, we wait till we have the nice chance that we don't have any informants within the audience or anything, because when we are talking about the artists talk about the artist-driven spaces. I was okay. The problem with us is not funding. It's not mainly funding. It's about the dangers of being the threat of being. You may get arrested any time because you did something they see that is not cool enough for them, or not, or against the national thing about Egypt and. Things like being they are overreacting sometimes.
Hur är det med klockan? Men du, hur har vi det med Elisabeth? Elisabeth har inte kommit.
Jo, hon är här.
Ja, men då så. Kom hit. Så.
Hello, I'm the other person, and I'm the third person of the film festival, Carolina. And we have here Elisabeth Belliveau, an excellent filmmaker from Canada. She's an animator or an artist, and she has to tell herself what she is. And why did you start animation? Why did you start to become an artist?
Okay. Thank you, first of all, for inviting me. I just landed, so I'm getting my bearings. But yes, that's a great question to start. I studied sculpture in my undergrad, and I was working in concrete and bronze. And I started to do artist residencies. So you move from place to place and you create these big objects, and it's very hard to afford as a young artist to ship them. So animation began as a kind of like, and I also am a writer. And so it became a way for me to have a mobile practice that had sculptural elements and also allowed me to bring writing and sound into it. So originally I just thought, well, I can't ship all my sculptures, so why don't I play with them and move them and film them, and then I have a video piece. So I taught myself animation through thinking through a sculpture practice and artist survival strategies maybe.
Yeah, of course. Okay, your animations are stop motion. It's a different kind of material in the animation. Why do you use different kind of materials?
I think I'm interested maybe in exploring high and low materials, and I'm really interested in my animations aren't scripted. They're very intuitive and improvised, so I really work with whatever I have around me, and working in sculpture, sometimes that might be a very precious material, and sometimes it's like my snack I was just eating. And so I like to transform those things and kind of move between them. And I think, does that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Okay. You haven't seen an animation, but for example, she has flowers from, I don't know, when you just like that and then come out, and this kind of figure and a ball and everything. She's using different kind of materials and objects, but also they all fit with each other. So you will see the animation at the very end of the talk. Okay.
Can I follow up on that?
Yeah.
You mentioned something interesting I just want to pick up on. A lot of my research is exploring still life and memento mori.
Okay.
So my work is a lot about materiality in time and transformation in time. And looking at still life paintings of flowers, as you mentioned, a lot of the materials are informed by looking at objects that represent socioeconomic status or like foodways and flowers. So using the old-fashioned themes of flowers and food and vessels that come to a table for a painting, a lot of the objects I choose for my animations are coming from that same line of thought and thinking about what is a contemporary still life and what happens when we can capture the transformation and movement.
Why are you interested in still life?
I'm interested in still life. I'm still exploring different branches of why I'm kind of pursuing it. One of the things that interests me is that traditionally, like in the French Academy, women weren't allowed to paint war scenes or any scenes that involved the figure, but still life was available to women to paint. And so there's these really subversive uses of symbolism through flowers. So you can actually read symbolically a lot of still life paintings. And some of them are encoded with maybe like recipes for like abortifacients or kind of talking about domestic life and in other ways. So I'm interested in the way that, the symbolism of still life works. And I'm interested generally in our everyday lives and what's around us, and maybe looking sideways sometimes.
Yeah, and you're using clay and a figure, like very figurative as well. Why do you use clay? Why do you use that material?
I use plasticine, which is I think usually like a children's material. It's like a non-toxic, malleable material that doesn't ever solidify. And I use that because it's kind of like, for me, it's just the most natural way to transform things. I'm not sure. Right now, I would say it's maybe a bit unresolved conceptually why plasticine. But materially, it's perfect for what I'm doing. And I think it's used in the animation industry. So it's just kind of a naturally good.
When she having the camera of the pictures, they don't look neat, but they are neat. It's so perfectly made that there happen things in the screen all the time, even if it's just half of the figure or anything. When you photograph and you use your camera, how do you think of the placement of the objects?
More and more, I'm really interested in the painting practice of Giorgio Morandi from Bologna, who was painting a lot, mostly the work in like the 1930s. And so thinking about composition of vessels and objects. So more and more, I'm actually looking at painting traditions and how they organize their compositions. I also really think about animation as I bring all these things to the table and they perform in time. So a lot of, and more of my work is about just close watching materials and how they change. So I'm actually moving them less as I am making new work, and more observation. So.
Okay. One thing also, you're writing and you make animation. How is it to work with both of the practices?
I think my practice is in 4 parts. So I collect, so I'm gathering materials and things to think with. I read a lot and I write. And usually those 3 things culminate in a kind of energy that I want to bring together, and that usually is an animation. So they kind of all, there's sort of this kind of a weaving that happens between them, and then I realize there's like a synthesis of ideas that are kind of cycling through. And then the animation is just a sort of improvised, intuitive way of organizing those things.
So, okay. She's interested in Clarice Lispector.
Yeah.
And have anybody read her? I have never read her. So why do you like her?
Sure. So this animation is the third of a trilogy, and so I've made 3 pieces, and they're all responses to thinking through Clarice Lispector's writing. She's an existentialist Brazilian writer who died in the 80s, and I really appreciate her work because of the way she arrests time. So she really stops time and looks very, very closely at things, and time shifts and moves. And for me, that's a lot like animation, where you kind of use materials or time as a material. So I think that's part of the connection. And I think she just has these lines that for me are about kind of capturing things in a moment before they change, and the inability to do that. And I feel like animation and close observing of materials, I feel lots of connections to her work.
So her animation is, for example, a flower that bloom out, and then a circle goes around. So you're using both with a flower that you can't make flower out, and then why do you use that kind of tension between them?
I think I spent a lot of time in the mountains in Canada, and I started to think a lot about geological time and human time. And I think for me, I learned that our fingernails grow at the same rate as continental drift. And so I think that kind of scale of thinking in big time and really intimate, understandable time for us became more and more interesting. So in a very small way, I wanted to manipulate time by making objects I could move, but also allow kind of another natural time unfolding that I can't control, and to some degree.
So time is important for you?
I think more and more, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Vad ska vi se? You're working with geometric forms. Why do you work with geometric forms?
Yeah, in the trilogy, the first one looks at decay in food. The second looks more at like the body, like figure and flower, and then this third one, I was looking at more like geometry in ways. Often in still life paintings, you'll see these kind of objects or measurement devices to show kind of innovation or technology, and they're usually organized in these geometric ways. So I was thinking about that. And also there's a red string moment that creates a geometry. And that was really inspired by Fred Sandbach, his minimalist yarn work that I had recently seen. And a lot of my animations, there's moments where I totally quote another artist that's just in my mind. So in that one there's De Chirico and Fred Sandbach. There's these moments where one frame is like pretty much on copying.
Copying
with my own materials.
How long does it take to make an animation for you? Are you a fast worker or a slow worker?
I usually work in bursts, so if I can't get it done in a month, I lose complete interest. So I usually will just work a lot and get it out.
God, I have so many questions. Is it anyone else that want? It's so sad you haven't seen a film.
I thought of you have something that with the flower that that is vanish and really getting old, and yes. And I also read about that you've been in Japan and they have this kind of vanitas that. The thing in a lot of Japanese tree, this the word in English, but the woodcut that they have these wrinkles and everything, and also way things that breaks and things like that. I saw some of that kind in your film as well, and I wonder if you have thought about that.
Yeah, I originally went to Japan as an artist in residence to look at still life history in Japan, but there isn't really the same tradition of representing objects through painting, and so I found the themes in the mythology, especially like the creation myth, had a lot of these kind of moments of transformation and a lot of vanitas, memento mori. So I found my interest there, and I made animations that were based on thinking about the movement in those narratives, and choreographing objects to kind of follow the arc of the story of the creation myth of Japan. I'm not sure if it's the same one that you're describing, but
okay, yes, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and your films are very much like dance as well. Are you interested in dance? Or do you want to dance but you can't?
Totally. Actually, exactly. It's a huge problem. I do want to dance and I can't, but I trained as a figure skater. So I think there is maybe a sense of movement and balance that I understand, but I would really love to be able to dance. Sure.
So they're so dancing, like for example, they move like this, and this very, very much like dance. And I think if you make films, I think dance is a very close. I think maybe it's more important sometimes than words, or you know, it depends what kind of filmmaker you are. But I think dance and movement is very important, especially in animation. What kind of project are you doing now?
I just spent another 2 months in Japan. I just went back to Canada about a week ago, and there what I was looking at was a lot of 3D printing, so scanning fruit usually and 3D printing them, and then doing a lot of time lapse of things that are moving in time, and again based on still life, and so actually setting up scenarios where different objects will sort of decompose, but also interfering in little ways. So it's a series of 4 animations, and in each there's a kind of scene, and everything is kind of pulsing and breathing. So it's a lot less like manipulated. It's very subtle, and they're mostly based on looking at still life paintings, but using like garbage and things that are around to kind of create the same composition, if that makes any sense.
But I also have been thinking, still life in animation, it's movement, but I think then it's not still life. How do you see yourself? How do you see your still life when it moves? Moves still life. I know. I think it's wonderful when you see it's so still, always so still. But your work is still, but it moves. So I think that's a very difficult way to.
Yeah, the scene is very often very still and
something moving.
But sometimes it's also you move the camera. Shall we ask the audience?
Do you have any questions?
Is there any?
Do you still practice traditional sculpture?
Yeah, I do. The work I just made in Japan involves a lot of mold making and casting, and then putting that side by side with 3D printed things and looking at how they shift and fail in ways. And I work still in bronze and things like that, but very small scale. So, yeah.
Okay. This is my second time I have a talk.
Yes.
I'm a bit nervous. How many films do you make per year?
I think 1 or 2 is a good number from me. That's a good year.
Good year.
Yeah.
So the rest of the time, what are you doing then? Are you reading or?
Yeah. I also do graphic novels, so I work on that and making things like sculpture, and I also teach, so I also work full time. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you teaching art?
I am. Yeah.
Your graphic novels, how are they? Are they abstract? Are they stories?
No, they're very different. They're narrative, and they're ink wash painted. They feel so separate from my animation work.
But do you like to have 2 separate works so you can do? Is that important for you?
Yeah, I think it really exercises different skills and different ways of thinking. They're very separate, but I enjoy both practices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That was a lot of good. I remember I didn't ask you what's up in your next. What's next?
What's next?
Yes.
Okay, I'm excited because I just got. Okay, what's next? I'm working with on a performance work that will be like kind of video performance and live visuals with performing text, reading text. Yes, and on the theme of like can I call it like real experimental desires of black people and black people narratives, mainly who are not mainly, or they are different from the American black people narrative, more black people living in Arab-speaking world, and how they face and their relation with daily life, racism and discrimination. That's very subtle, but it's very effective. That's it.
Yeah.
I will start working like next month, and it will take a year or something to produce it. Yeah, so I'm excited.
Yeah.
Your graphic novels, how many graphic novels have you made? And why do you make graphic novels? And why do you don't write?
Yeah.
Yes.
Or dance. Yeah, it's a long life. The graphic novels, there's 3 that are published, and they came about because I was interested in zine culture. So I was making self-published zines as a way to just communicate with mainly artists I was meeting in the world in residencies and do mail-outs. And so I was really interested in mail art and zines. So a publisher approached me and asked if he could put all my zines together and make a graphic novel. And that was the first one, and it went really well, and I enjoyed the process, and then have made 2 since.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you both are using words and like that.
And you also work with some with graphic.
Yeah.
Yes. I do graphic designs and for articles for some other artistic reasons, for myself sometimes, for albums, music albums and stuff like this. We're gonna watch the films.
Yeah, tell me what something.
We can do like that we see them and then
Have a talk after, so you can see.
some because there is a tough program.
Yeah, a very tough program.
Yeah. So
your film, what's your film title?
It's called Troisième.
Yeah.
Yes.
third.
The third.
You speak